I'll be brief. I think this is terrific. I think it's seeing a first taste of what the new development Auckland can deliver to Auckland, and pretty rapid rate of knots. And we haven't committed to that CCO restructure yet, but I think things are looking good for it. And I think development Auckland's first test was always going to be how it can show it can reach into suburban Auckland, and this passed that test, and how it can support local boards, and it passes that test. And of course local board participation and decision making is absolutely respected here. The significance and engagement policy from 1 December reinforces that, so there's all those risks I think are alleviated, or they're actually taken away. That local sovereignty is still held up and paramount here. I'm very interested to see co-location. There's some great examples from even the former councils, Papatoi Rec and other places. Intensification, I would love to see those further discussions with Auckland Transport, and I'm thinking the development opportunities above car parks, e.g. Victoria Car Park, a huge opportunity there, and I'm sure there's lots of other examples. And then there's probably going to be some nerves around paragraph 29C, the direct reinvestment, and I think we just need to canvass that one gently, and just have some conversations with local boards about what sort of parks might fall into that category. It's one I'm a little bit nervous about too, but I think that's territory that we need to have an intelligent conversation about. So I'm very, very happy to see this come up, and has my vote.
Thank you. Member Taipari.
Kia ora, Madam Chair, tēnā kōrua. I'm all for the smart business of doing things right. My big question has been before, and it's again, is what's the policy and mechanisms that ACPL have to ensure that lands that, because these lands I understand are all acquired from legacy councils and then you're succeeded to them in your right as a CCO. What policies and mechanisms are being utilised to ensure that land that has been acquired from owners of the land for essential services or the like that are now surplus to requirements will be offered back to those owners of their land?
Part of the process.
Well, basically we'll just carry on with the process we've always had within an asset sale, if that's what it involves, which we talked about before. So we exhaustively check the title of properties, and make sure that any statutory requirements are complied with.
And through you, Madam Chair, and how will that information be provided to this committee on that basis? So
same way our reports do now. We always cover that off in our, if it involves a sale or something, there's always a section in our reports that record that.
So in terms of properties that have already gone through that process, are you comfortable that they all have followed that process appropriately?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. Couple of questions. Thank you. In terms of delegation to make the decision to sell, that still rests with this committee and council?
Correct.
Okay. The other one is around, we talk about it subject to the LTP, not necessarily, or is it I mean, there's still got to be projects that are delivering on the Auckland plan, in line with the local board plan, not the other way around, like, oh, there's something to sell, what can we do? Because that's how I've seen it so far. Is that what you're saying, essentially, that it will be a break-even kind of thing, like if...
Yeah, any of these propositions have to be genuinely neutral. Yep. So we won't be entertaining things where the board sort of can pay for half or something and want the other half to come out of the proverbial hat.
Yeah.
So they have to stack up. And in terms of what the money can be spent on, look, we haven't sort of got a complete 100% black and white definition, but the philosophy is it's got to have gone through some credible organisational screening process, whether it's one of the network plans or the LTP, the AMP. I mean, we all know there's a lot of projects that haven't been given the tick simply because there's insufficient money rather than there not being an acknowledgement of need. So I don't think there'll be a shortage of candidates, to be honest.
Okay, and I guess for me, Madam Chair, I support this because I think, and also I don't support it in principle, I just support it because I think we've heard quite clearly from local boards over time, every time we go through this process, that they want to have the assets that are realised in the area go back into their area if they're not regional assets, if they're local assets. So I think this is timely. The other thing, it does open up that wider conversation about asset sales, which, and I was hoping the Mayor would be here because he promised us in our retreat that we would have this conversation, and we haven't had it yet.
Where is he?
And so I think we need to really be looking at
Crisis
all
meeting.
of our conversation around assets, because it's really clear in the feedback from our submissions that people aren't that crazy about the two options they've been giving for paying for stuff, and we need to look at it, you know, like Christchurch,
Councillor-
going into strategic
Councillor, I know.
partnerships.
Councillor Cooper,
Thank
yes.
you, I'm finished.
Yes.
Everyone else has had,
Oh, you
Councillor
know, no,
Darby's had a good comment.
I'm just going to say that report, I have asked for that report to come into this committee. They're being worked on.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the overall context, I'm not quite so enamoured with this as some of the rest of you seem to be. We've already got a program of 650 million disposal of assets over 10 years. That's an average of, you know, just over 65 million a year. That's a lot of assets that are getting hocked off. This is going to be in addition to that. And all I can go on is by some of the practical examples. There's a lot of, you know, sort of jargonised generalities here, but what will these, you know, service sites boil down to when, you know, when the rubber hits the road? I mean, I could see a situation here where local boards are big areas too. Don't think that all local boards are necessarily all in agreement in selling off a particular asset. There's subdivisions within boards where one asset can be sold and be seen to be going to another part of the local board. I just wonder to what extent this could then, you know, theoretically morph into a situation where if they want projects done, instead of the, you know, the kind of return on the rating dollar, it's by disposing an asset. You'll get this if you sell that, and that might, you know, lead to problems, especially when we have the mention of things like, you know, pocket parks. As the way I read this, essentially most of these assets are going to put in intensive housing. I mean, I would have thought we were doing enough in all manner of other areas for intensive housing without then looking at, you know, further council sites to broke this. And again, I'm going on a concrete example of here up in Whangaparoa, where we have a very similar situation here where essentially what's been a de facto reserve, even though it hasn't got reserve status, has been hocked off for intensive housing. There's intensive housing all around there that's contributing to road congestion. The local board, largely on the push of the people of the other subdivision, have agreed to sell it. At the same time, if we were to take a slightly longer term view, would see this place by a town centre as an ideal fit for a park and ride. Now it's well along this track, and I see that sort of situation as being the one that will be very easily jumped on by a board that's only in for a couple of years, or, you know, has a split between subdivisions. So I have real reservations about this. Fine if there's a case by case, you know, instance where a local board can, you know, is all in agreement and it stacks up. Yes, there might be a case for one-off, but not as a matter of process. This to me opens up to this being a de facto way of funding projects in the future. You know, once it's started, once the foot's in the door. And like I said, there's got to be nothing left at this rate. 650 million's going. It's not an equal distribution of assets across Auckland Council as a whole. So I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, just want to speak further to that. Effectively what this means is that everything's on the table, nothing's locked down, unless there happens to be maybe some special gifting arrangement for a park or a reserve or the like. The special concern that I've got is that we're at a very early stage in terms of our development of a number of strategies. Our Environment Strategic Action Plan still isn't on the table. We've been waiting for that for years. We don't have any urban forest strategy like Melbourne, for example, or other cities. We have not given adequate thought to our greenways and so on in many Local boards are only at the very early stages of that. We're seeing massive destruction of the tree landscape across Auckland, death by 1,000 cuts. We're not actively monitoring it in terms of any resource consent processes, but it is happening, and all you have to do is go outside and listen to the chainsaws on an ongoing basis, and I can tell you they're really humming. So I've got an issue about what tools local boards and council is going to have to actually evaluate whether something gets hocked off or not, whether a given area of land is going to be needed for a reserve, given the intensification that will occur around that area over time. And I really don't think that we've adequately thought this through and that we're ready for it. There may be instances where, yes, there is a good case and it's future-proofed. But I would suggest that local boards are going to be in an invidious position where if they want something, they're going to be told, no, you can't have it unless you flog something off. The community, the people living around these pocket parks or areas, they're going to be very disturbed. As I say, nothing's going to be locked down here. This sends a message out to people in the community. If you want your spaces, you're really going to have to lobby for them because you may lose them otherwise. So I share the concerns that Councillor Watson has.
David, do you want to make a comment or aren't you going to bother? My understanding is you're talking service sites that are no longer being used.
Yeah, look, I think the question comes down to this. If you think about it, the council, being as it is a combination of 8 previous ones, has got billions and billions of dollars invested in service property.
Absolutely.
Which has been accumulated for, literally decades. And it would be unusual if the result of us all looking at it today, in this day and age, as we say, all that property, all those billions of dollars worth of property that we've got tied up in service are in, the most appropriate place and the appropriate size and the most appropriate stuff on them. It would be pretty unusual if that was the case. And so you start with that proposition of then it's like, how do we get a more intelligent approach going to recycling the value in that? And yes, it will involve configuration. Inevitably means moving out of some sites just as you do more on others. And our proposition is that's a smart way to use your resources, which aren't infinite. The other important point is that if we've got a commitment to intensification, we know one of the big issues actually is getting sites available in a range of different suburbs for people to build houses on. So this is a contributor to that as well.
Thank you, Councillor.
It's my right to reply, is it, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Look, I just want to take up Councillor Walker's point there. He seemed to not realise that there are local boards out there that are really asking us right now to get into action. And
that's right.
Mangere Otahu have developed their local board plan, which is flows on from the Auckland plan in 2012. And I can tell Councillor Walker that they are desirous of seeing us start aggregating some of those sites in Otahu, especially the old Otahu, which has got fantastic facilities as far as infrastructure, building a new transport centre there on the rail line. And, if we can only start making some moves, and that's one board that will be supportive of this move. So I think, councillors, this is something we'll go to the boards, but the boards have been asking us, why are they losing all those proceeds of those sales when they could be used in their particular areas? So this is a change in policy, and I ask you to support what's being proposed here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want by division. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I've actually got an amendment from Councillor Casey. Councillor
That was
Casey.
my final speech.
Oh, I know, and I'm sorry. Because I'm reluctant to accept this because it says agree in principle, and then at the end reinvest into local projects subject to consultation with local boards. But, I mean, that's the whole process that we're going to do.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
Summed it up.
The process.
so I'm not going to accept it as an amendment, because I did ask the meeting whether you agreed with them in principle, and most of you said no. And subject to consultation with local boards, this is all about consulting with local
Madam
boards. So I'm
Chair,
not accepting
Madam
that.
Chair,
Projects.
I think,
We've had the last speaker.
and we've done a bus trip out there as to what George
I
and
know.
Councillor
Okay,
Walker
so
was on
I
that
will
bus trip.
put it by division.
Madam Chair, can I speak?
No, because we've had the last speaker, councillor.
I can't speak.
No.
Councillor Brewer,
For,
Councillor Casey,
Yes.
Councillor Cashmore,
Yes.
the Cooper,
Yes.
Darby,
for,
the Fletcher,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor House,
Aye.
Councillor Crum,
Or
Councillor Lee,
No.
Councillor Penrose,
Yes.
Councillor Quacks,
Yes.
Councillor Stewart,
yes.
Member Taipari,
Aye.
Member Tamihiri, Councillor Walker,
Oh, I was listening for Mr Tamahiri. No.
Councillor Watson,
No.
Councillor Wood.
Yes.
Okay.
You wanted to see if
Thank
way
you.
John was voting before you voted, Wayne.
do you traditionally vote opposite?
Thank
No,
you.
I just didn't hear him.
Thank you,
opposite to JT.
councillors.
Okay.
That
Just a mark
was
of-
passed
mark of
with
respect.
15 votes to 3. Thank you,
Thank you, Madam
David.
Chair.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
That's
Board's
a
gonna
great
love
move
them.
forward.
Sorry, no, they're bloody good
Okay,
auntie
thank
like
you,
to do it, you know.
councillors. We will go back to item number 10, is it?